Hello, hello. Share this to the socials. All right, what am I doing? Galileo, Galileo Figaro. Oh. Oh, no, that's not what I want. I'm saving this to here.
And so what I remember about that, it wasn't the most positive memory because everybody's reaction was like, was that a picture of that? I so very similar to Tyrion. I was
Okay. Just did that. Oh yeah.
coming out. And in this article,
I can't even remember for sure.
I was kind of coming into it with, oh, well, fans are skeptical and they're hard to please. Of course.
there's actually going to be some filming, and it's going to be in New Zealand, like Lord of the Rings. Are you kidding me? And so a movie of The Lion, the Witch, and the Horse.
My new computer, I'm obsessively Googling all the time Narnia movie, and it was.
What did I click? It's weird.
Coming out. People, that's not what you want. I thought, if we're going to do something, I want to do something that is done right.
One of the reasons why I'm sure I got singled out early on is kind of like, oh, you got to keep your eye on Glumpuddle, was I think there was, when I first got to Narnia Web,
And I was not in the first group. I think I
thought, well,
have my new computer, I'm obsessively Googling all the time Narnia movie, and it was not long.
one of the reasons why.
Can we do the Fandango?
I can't remember the exact date. I want
Me had the idea of doing reading groups, and the reading groups
must have been like mid 2002.
Very tricky thing of, you know, we want to have enough control. Very tricky thing of, you know, we want to have enough control to keep.
but he and I did a reading group, and it was.
I thought, well, okay, so it would have been.
And the reading groups became kind of a test for wannabe moderators. And I was not in the
Website or whatever it was. It's still like, yeah, but is it going to be organized?
This community here of Lord of the Rings people, and I kind of just loved that idea of what they built. And then in
Okay.
this is going to be, you know, edited and tightened up and a little bit probably and all that. If we need to call, can you believe we're here? This is Glum pause or think or whatever. That's that's totally fine. Let me just jump right in. Guys, can you believe? Guys, can you believe we're here right now? Guys, can you believe we're here right now?
This is amazing.
Now.
This is amazing.
Now.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Wow.
No.
Amazing. Wow.
No.
Wow.
No.
This is Glum Puddle. This is Glum.
No. No.
This is Glum Puddle. This is Glum Puddle, and I'm going to first.
No.
This is Glum Puddle, and I'm going to first introduce Tyrion, the founder of NarniWeb.
Yay!
Hey, everybody! It's so great to be here.
And we have Fantasia. And we have Fantasia, one of the first NarniWebbers.
Hello, everybody.
And now the forum administrator, or the administrator of the NarniWeb forum. We're gathered here today. We're gathered here today because, my gosh, NarniWeb.com is 20 years old. So if the thought of a if the thought of a however long this is going to be chit chat, just saying, hey, remember the good old days? If that appeals to you and you're interested in the history of the NarniWeb website, the history of the community, stay on. Stay on, because we're just going to reminisce here, I think, and I can't wait. And your listeners can't see, but I'm wearing the NarniWeb.com shirt from circa 2005, I want to say. You're probably the same year the movie came out, I think, is when.
Is that the old one with the classified ads on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the lifelike, I can't read it right now, of course, but it's got the White Witch taking out an ad in the newspaper for very lifelike statues.
Yeah.
Statues.
Yeah.
We were very did you come up with that, Tyrion, or did somebody else? Did you come up?
Yeah.
Did you come up with that, Tyrion, or did somebody else?
I think I remember kind of crowdsourcing the idea. I remember there were various people that popped in different ideas, and we kind of took a bunch of different ideas and then turned it into this great shirt.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a moderator. I think that was, I think like just after I became I joined the staff, which would have been about May 2005. Like shortly after I said, okay, I've got this kind of crazy idea, Tyrion. Hear me out. Narni Web TV. I think that was a moderator. I think like just after I became moderator. I think that was a moderator. I think like just after. I think like just after I became I joined the staff, which would have been about May 2005. Like shortly after I said, okay, I've got this kind of crazy idea, Tyrion. Hear me out. Narni Web t-shirts. And you're like, way ahead of you. But we've been on that for months, dude. Like, okay, great. Okay. But so I just thought it would be fun to reminisce about the old days here. So Tyrion, could you, and I feel like I only kind of know this in broad strokes, kind of the origin of Narni Web, but 20 years ago this month, the founding of Narni Web. Tyrion, take me to how we got to Narni Web becoming a thing, why you started Narni Web, and how we're still here today.
Yeah. Well, so like so many of us, I grew up loving the Narnia stories, and I just ingested those really, and I just stories. I just ingested those really young, and then when I was in my teens, I my mom was like, "You've got to read." My mom. My mom was like, "You've got to read." My mom was like, "You've got to read this series, the Lord of the Rings," and read Lord of the Rings and loved it. When I was a teenager, I was the kind of nerdy teenager that was reading the Silmarillion and wanting to talk to people about it, and people are like, "What?" And then in the late in and then in and then in the late 90s, this news came out that there was going to be this movie about Lord of the Rings, which of course was just amazing. And then it turns out that it was good, and it like brought to life this story that you've known and loved in a way that was just fabulous, and it was so good. In the process of in the process of it was so good. In the process of so good. In the process of watching the first movie and then being excited about the next movie, I discovered the OneRing.net, or Torn, which was this huge fan site that they just sort of ingested and just had all the great news about news about all the great news about news about the movie. And I thought, oh, these guys had such a good idea, and they're so huge, and you can see how much people really are joining this community here of Lord of the Rings people. And I kind of just loved that idea of what they built. And then it must have been like mid 2002, I heard somehow
That sounds about right.
through the I kind of was thinking about, where did I first hear about the Narnia movie? I think I was in Costco, and I was looking at
Oh wow.
Of course.
I saw, as you do, right? I saw the set of Lord of the Rings books, and there was a sticker on the front that said that Walden was going to be making these Lord of the Rings, or that Walden was going to be making these Lord of the Rings, or the Narnia movie. That Walden said that Walden was going to be making these Lord of the Rings, or the Narnia movie. Lord of the Rings, these Narnia movie, making these Narnia movie, making these Narnia movie, Narnia movie, these Narnia movie of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I thought, what? Lord of the Rings has been so great, and now they're going to do Narnia? You've got to be kidding me. So I'm just like exploding here with excitement. I got on the internet, and there's not really any information about this movie. Just very little bit about, there's actually going to be some filming, and it's going to be in New Zealand. Like Lord of the Rings? Yep. Are you kidding me? And so I was getting so excited all summer, and I'm thinking about this and thinking about this. And then in the fall, I had this idea, well, why not try to do the wondering.net, but Narnia, right? Like, that sounds amazing. So,
and this is your background, right? And this is your back. This is your back. And this is your.
amazing.
And this is your.
Sounds amazing.
And this is your background. And this is your background, right? Web design and graphic design. This is kind of your background.
Yeah. So I'm just a web developer, and that's kind of what I did professionally, build websites for people. And so that's the thing I know how to do. So it kind of made sense to do this. So I thought, well, okay, so it would have been probably, I think, the beginning of November. I kind of put together just a real simple page with kind of slapped together some links with any news stories that I could find. And then I thought, okay, well, the wondering.net had a forum. So I should set up a forum. I don't know anything about doing a forum, but if you're going to build a community, you need to have a forum, right? So I created a forum and launched this thing and hoped that there would be some people that would show up.
Really quick, do you remember the exact day it launched? Really quick, do you remember the exact day it launched?
Well, what I remember, I can't remember the exact date. I wonder if we went back in the news, because I know we've kind of put all the old news stories into some of the newer systems as they've come along. So it's possible that the very first news story might be out there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we can check.
Might take me a while to pull it up here, but
it's going to be a lot of pages back, won't it?
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it. We'll figure it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
So, but what I remember is that it was in 2003, of course, and I had gone to my wife and I had gone up to go see her parents for Thanksgiving, and I remember getting up there, and I remember Thanksgiving. I remember getting up there. And I'm just all excited because, I just launched this thing and I got on their computer to go check it out. And the forum, there were people that had signed up for the forum and were talking to each other.
Imagine that.
It was the most magical thing that that I could remember. So
very clearly there was.
Remember.
So very clearly. Very clear. Very clearly there was a demand for this, and it was just waiting for this to come along.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow. And then so wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. And then so how did we? So now Narnia Web is
absolutely.
Wow. 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 And then so how did we? So now Narnia Web is launched, and then I think Wow. And then so how did we? So now Narnia. So now. Wow. So now Narnia Web is launched, and then I think a very short. Wow. So now Narnia Web is launched, and then I think a very short time later, you come along, right, Fantasia? I think.
Absolutely.
So now Narnia Web.
Absolutely.
So now.
Absolutely.
So now Narnia Web is launched, and then I think a very short time later, you come along, right, Fantasia? I think just a few months later.
I believe Narnia Web launched.
Few months later.
So I believe.
Few months later.
So I believe Narnia Web launched November of 2003, obviously,
Yeah.
because here we are 20 years later. I joined actually February 6th, 2004, so about 4 months after it launched.
Later.
So I believe Narnia Web launched November of 2003, obviously,
Yeah.
because here we are 20 years later. I joined actually February 6th, 2004, so about 4 months after it launched.
Well, that'd be 2 months, wouldn't it? February would be 2 months after.
November, December, January, February.
Oh, wait.
Well, end of
Oh, you're
November.
right. Sorry. Never mind. Too much math for me. Okay.
December, January.
Well,
Is that 3?
Yeah. Well, January,
we're getting
Reasonable
old. You know,
lad.
we've been doing this for 20 years. I'm getting old.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So how did? Well, that'd be 2 months.
after it launched.
Okay.
Yep.
So
About 4 months after it launched.
okay. So okay. So how did you come across? So how did you come across? How did you come across? Okay. How did you come across? How did you come across Narnia Web? And what was your first impressions?
I never saw this book at Costco. I never saw this book at Costco. I never saw this book. I never saw this book at Costco. I never saw this book at Costco. I want to see a picture of that.
Me too.
So very similar to Tyrion. I was obsessed with the Lord of the Rings movies because they were phenomenal. And when they announced, I just had this gut instinct that after they came out and were so successful that they would do Narnia. And
Yes.
so this is back in the day where I'm in college, I have my new computer, I'm obsessively Googling all the time Narnia movie. And it was not long after it was announced that I found, I can't remember if it was Associated Press or Variety, maybe both of them did a press release that Walden was going to be making the movies. And I don't know why I didn't have the idea. I don't know why I didn't have the idea to search for a fan site, or maybe I did and I just didn't put in the right string of numbers. I don't know. I remember
words,
string of numbers.
I don't know.
String of numbers.
I don't know.
String of numbers.
I don't know. I remember for like a
string of numbers.
I don't know.
String of numbers.
I don't know.
Of numbers.
I don't know. I remember
of numbers.
I don't know. I remember for like a year and a half, every week, probably literally every week or so, I would Google Narnia movie, and just nothing was really coming up for a while.
Yeah, but somehow in February. Yeah.
Coming up for a while.
Yeah, but
up for a while.
Yeah, but somehow in February, and I think I found it and waited like a week before I joined the forum. But I did find it in either very late January or early February, and then joined, and it was like I found my people. All of my fellow fantasy nerds were there. It was amazing.
Which I think we can sort of take for granted now. the ability to find your people on the internet. There's so much more infrastructure. Boy, do I feel old. There's so much more infrastructure now with social media to so much more infrastructure. There's so much people on the internet. There's so much more infrastructure on the internet. There's so much more infrastructure now with social media to find, how many Narnia Facebook groups are there? There's a lot. But at the time, it kind of was hoping somebody with the necessary technical skills to create something where you could join and find your people. And it wasn't easy. And if you did find, the right site or whatever it was, it's still like did find, the right website or whatever it was, it's still like, yeah, but is it going to be organized? Is it going to be cordial? Like how, because the internet could be it still can be a very nasty place, but I think the kind of infrastructure and tools to kind of keep that under control and keep that at bay were more limited at the time. So it was a big deal. That was my first reaction to Narnia Web. I came along in May 2004. And I think it was a post from the OneRing.net was how I first discovered it, because Return of the King had just come out, so Lord of the Rings is starting to wind down, and they would occasionally post Narnia related stuff, figuring that, okay, Tolkien people might be interested in C.S. Lewis stuff. And so that's how I came to Narnia Web, and almost immediately that's how I came to Narnia. And so that's how I came to Narnia Web, and almost immediately, and I never really got involved in the OneRing.net forum because it was just too difficult to use for me. Whereas Narnia Web was just so kind of, this is a credit to you, Tyrion. It was just pretty easy to post in and to keep things organized. And the color scheme was very warm and inviting. So I remember, I totally know what you mean by I found my people, which was just such a big deal at the time. Curious Tyrion, where did you, I guess it's not the most genius, where did you, I guess it's not the most genius thing, but where did you come up with the name Narnia Web, and did you were there any other names you considered?
Oh man, I don't remember if there were any. I mean, as with any, whenever you're trying to come up with anything, you're just trying to find a domain, right? I think I had kind of I had the idea of like Narnia Net, but I don't think it was available. And then I just kind of, I think Narnia Movie I was interested in, but it wasn't available. And then, and interestingly, later on, in the person that had Narnia Movie said, they came along and said, we'll just give it to you. And we ended up getting the domain narniamovie.com, which is kind of neat. But
wow.
But Narnia Web.
Wow.
Narnia Web just ended up being available, and it was easy to grow, and it was easy to grow, and it was easy to, and it was easy to available and it was easy to grab, and it ended up just becoming I don't know. It just kind of, when you start with something, it's hard to remember what it would have been like before. But I don't think I ever I don't remember any other names that were in the running.
Right. Like I said, one of like I said, one of the things that stuck out to me on like I said, one of the things one of the things one of the things that one of the things one of the things that stuck out to me almost immediately about Narnia Web, and I assume you as well, Fantasia, was just the a lot of the nastiness of the internet seemed to be pretty kept at bay on
Yep.
Narnia Web, and it was
Absolutely.
just it was moderated, perhaps too moderated, but it was very carefully moderated in those early days. And this is very was that part of your thought originally, Tyrion, to we got to be very, very intentional about let's keep this cordial, let's keep it productive, let's keep it clean. Was that one of your really, really clear goals from the very beginning?
Oh yeah. I thought, if we're going to have this community and we're going to build this thing, I want to build something that is world class, something that's really good
Mhm.
quality. And part of that is protecting the environment. If you've got an environment where people are terrible and is kind of an ugly environment, well, that's not going to attract people. That's not what you want. I thought, if we're going to do something, I want to do something that is done right. So
Mhm.
yeah. I really wanted to yeah. I really wanted to keep it good. Really wanted to
Mhm.
really wanted to keep it good. And I am just not good at confrontation. Good at confrontation. Good at confrontation. And arguing with people. And so I think early on I wanted to try to find people that could help keep things going well. Could help keep things going well. Keep things going well. And help how to say it, like, I wanted to recruit people to things going well. And help well. I wanted to recruit people to be leaders, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So
which eventually got us to Fantasia, I guess. How did you
get? It took a while.
Yeah. When did you actually join the staff? Fantasia, I guess.
It took a while.
Yeah. When did you actually join the staff?
So I actually went back and looked. A lot of that information was on the very original forum, and that's gone. So I don't actually know exactly when, but I remember kind of the progression. It started off with two guys. Pashon was the original co-admin with Tyrion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Caleb 70. For a long time, it was those two guys doing a lot of the admin work and moderating. They were the lead moderators and moderating. They were the lead moderators. And then at some point, somebody, it wasn't me, had the idea of doing reading groups. And the reading groups became kind of a test for wannabe moderators. And I was not in the first group. I think I can't even remember for sure which book I did. I can't even group. I think first group. I can't even group. I can't even remember for sure which book I did. It was a long time ago. I remember I did it with Justin Orman, and I remember it was not the first reading group.
Justin Orman, wow.
But he and I did a reading group, and it was not long after that I was kind of like, you know, everybody else is getting asked to be a moderator, and I haven't been asked yet. I think I kind of started putting some feelers out, and I definitely remember asking Pashawn about it. And for those who know member Coracle, she was a moderator, and she says that I came to her as well, and she says that she especially put in a good word for me, that I would be a good moderator. And after that, I joined the staff, and I think I joined the staff, and I think it was probably pretty early on. I would guess that it was, the forum wasn't even a year old yet when I joined the staff as a permanent member.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah. Wow.
Member.
Wow. So yeah, that was a big, just the fact that there were a lot of, like a kind of a team in place really dedicated to keeping things clean was a major asset that attracted me to Narnia Web. At the same time, I definitely in those early days was one of the ones having some run-ins with the moderators. And I think, you know, we were trying to find this balance at the time. It's a very tricky thing of, you know, we want to have enough control to keep things from getting nasty and keep things on topic, etc. But not so much that we can't have natural discussion, and maybe discussion. And maybe in the early days it was a little bit over moderated. I think by the time the movie came out, I think we'd finally found that balance. But
I could speak to that a little bit if you want.
But
I could speak to that a little bit if you want me
please.
to.
And I don't but very possibly you were one of the mods saying, "Hey, Glumpuddle, back off here."
I was, yeah. So in the early days, it was very interesting because it wasn't even just the beginning of the group of us who were moderators learning to do our job. It was very early on in the internet as a whole.
Yes.
And so I know that looking back on it now, there's so many things I would have done differently. So many, like specifically to moderating, things I would have left alone that I never would have touched. There were probably a few people that I chased off because I jumped on, I was being too harsh and whatever. But I know we're not into this yet. I know when I became a news poster later on down the road, boy, I am amazed that I never got us into huge trouble because I had no idea what I was doing and I was learning on the fly. And but that was absolutely the case with the forum. It was very strict back in the day because we were so desperate to keep a good, clean forum. Particularly at the time, I remember we really wanted it to be a safe place for kids. I don't know how many parents let their kids online. But back in the day, when the internet was so new,
it's a children's book, you know.
It was a children's book, and we wanted.
It's a children's book, you know.
It was a children's book, and we wanted the forum to be available for children to come and hang out and discuss with the adults that were there.
And I must say, I want to make it clear that, as much as I had some run-ins with the moderators and such and was pushing back, but ultimately, what I think it was a really good thing, the people that were really passionate and wanted to have those discussions and took this seriously, they stuck that out and they hung around. They stuck that out. They stuck that out and they hung around, whereas the troublemakers immediately got discouraged. And so it certainly, I think, had a cumulative effect on having a really good quality people, I guess. Right from the outset to kind of lay the foundation for the community. And I will say, I think one of the reasons why I'm sure I got singled out early on is kind of like, oh, you got to keep your eye on Glumpuddle. Was I think there was, when I first got to Narniweb, I would be curious to say if you guys have similar memories of the early form in particular, but I was really surprised by what seemed to me overwhelming amount of optimism for the movie. I was kind of coming into it with, oh, well, fans are skeptical and they're hard to please. Of course, they on some level they should be hard to please, and Hollywood gets it wrong a lot more often than it gets it right. So we have a lot of, valid reason to be skeptical. But I just remember lots of posts where it was clear most people were just taking it for granted that, oh yeah, this movie's going to become a classic and it's going to be an amazing adaptation. It's going to sweep the Oscars. And so I think the fact that I was coming in there with like, oh, I don't know, I'm excited, but let's see, kind of made me stand out. And often I was kind of one of the few who kind of, well, wait, I actually don't know how I feel about. Well, wait, I actually don't know how I feel about this. I'm actually really worried. Kind of voices. Do you guys have a similar memory of early Narniweb at all?
I think that a lot
of early Narniweb at all?
Well, I think that a lot of the reason for that is because of how good Lord of the Rings was. You saw what Hollywood could do. Yep. And of course, Narnia is going to come in and it's going to, Narnia is Narnia is going to come. Narnia is going to come in and it's going to be the same way. They're throwing a big budget
Absolutely.
at it. It's going to be that good. And then to be that good. And then what we were starting to see from the early that good. And then what we were starting to see from the early looks were pretty good. Some of the early looks, it seemed like they were getting it. The looks, it seemed like early looks. It seemed like they were getting it right. A lot of the things. Of course, there were things that we're worried about and we're anxious about. Are they going to screw this up? But we, I think
definitely lots of optimism though. Definitely lots of optimism.
This up, but we, But
definitely lots of optimism, though.
Oh, absolutely. And for a lot of people, Narnia has some real religious overtones as well. And what we kind of saw from
with more of a guilty until proven innocent kind.
Enthusiasm.
Right. Right. But I think I came into it with more of a guilty until proven innocent. Guilty until of a guilty until proven innocent kind of guilty until proven innocent kind of mentality with it. I do mentality with it. I do think my screen name probably didn't
just
help
gonna
either.
say, I think your screen name was
It was very accurate.
yeah.
You mentioned being impressed with the early. You mentioned being impressed with the early looks. I sent you guys a little piece of nostalgia the other day. A link. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to watch it, but a link to one of the early behind the scenes videos. Did you have a chance to watch that again, Tyrion?
I missed it. Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
That's okay. Oh, that's okay. But I just texted you guys like the very first kind of behind the magic of Narnia, where they showed some of the creatures in costume and stuff. Do you guys remember that was? I mean, we'd seen, I think, pictures of the cast at that point, but I think that was the first strong indicator of this is what the visual look of the movie is going to be. Maybe there'd been some concept art they'd released, but this was the first really good idea of what the movie was actually going to look like. Fantasia, you're kind of nodding. Do you remember kind of what your first impressions were of that first behind the scenes video that was released about a year before the movie came out?
So I don't remember specifically my reaction to the video. So I don't remember specifically my reaction to the very, very first one. The one that I really, really remember reacting to. And I can turn this into that guy watched that Glumpuddle member story.
Oh, really?
When they was when they released that first shot of Aslan. It was not in the trailer. It was when he was walking down the sidewalk between two little girls.
Oh yeah.
And that was when I was.
It was like a CG
amazing movie ever.
Yeah, it was like a. It was just a test of the CG.
Ever.
It was just a test. It was just a test of the CG Aslan. They were just sort of like kind of camcorder quality of they weren't even in costume. It was just two little girls on a sidewalk, probably in LA, and they had one of the early LA, and they had a pretty good looking CG Aslan, and they had a pretty good a pretty good looking CG Aslan in the middle. They kind of had that as part of one of the early kind of behind the scenes shots that were released.
Yeah. That was the one that I really have a strong memory of my reaction to seeing, was that clip.
And what was your reaction, and what was my reaction? You seem to remember.
Well, so your reaction was, it was later on when they released the first shot of Aslan, and you were convinced it was not CGI. And I remember at the time I had a source of a guy who actually helped animate that scene.
Ah, there you go.
And I was arguing with you of like, that's actually CGI. That's
you were
what
right on that one. Yeah.
And I wasn't right very often, but that time I was.
No, well, I completely forgot about that, and that's absolutely accurate. And I think I'll give myself a little bit of credit. It was dial-up internet days, and so very low resolution, and but yep, that's true. And I remember that first That's true. And I remember that first behind the scenes video. Main thing I remember is being surprised at how many practical effects it looked like they were going to be. I think I just kind of took it for granted that, oh, all the creatures are going to be computer generated. I remember seeing the Cyclops and the Minotaur in costume. And I remember us all being a little bit confused, like, wait, I thought that was the BBC days. Do we still do actual costumes now? And I think I remember being pretty excited about that. Do you guys remember this would have been a few months before, I'm pretty sure, the USA Today ad that they took out in about mid 2004.
So,
and it was basically a 2004.
So,
and it was
Oh, so
for
Oh, so USA Today was such a big turning point. That is when Narnia started.
And this is about May 2004, so about a year and a half before the movie came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was the time when this was the time when we were like, Narnia Web was moving, and we were sucking up every little bit of information we could get. And, Fantasia, what you were saying about the source that you had, that reminded me how special, how amazing it was that we had sources. We were actually breaking news. We had real news, because in the beginning we were just reposting things that other people posted, but we were like the place that people were coming to for news. And it was so exciting to be on the front end of all this
leading edge. Yeah.
And when that ad came out,
and the fact that the studio had that desire to have that relationship, and the fact that the studio had that desire to have that relationship with Narnia Web, and a big part of that is, again, with Narnia. With Narnia Web. And a big part of that is, again, the internet was kind of new. And nowadays, I think there's so many people have gone to school about online marketing, but it was sort of the Wild West at the time. And the fact that, someone's already done the work of cultivating and kind of curating this community. And so there was much more, I think, of it made more sense at the time to kind of make friends with Narnia Web a little bit.
Yeah, and
it's a different world.
Studio,
it still happens now.
Studio absolutely did. Absolutely did. So it was. So if we jump forward, we did. So it was. Absolutely did. So if we jump forward just a little bit to the end of 2004, there was this moment when I still remember, it was Christmas Day, and USA Today did a movie, or not a movie, an article about.
Oh, the article, yeah.
And USA Today did a movie, or not a movie, an article, a movie. An article today did an article about.
Oh, the article, yeah.
About Narnia. And so first it was about Narnia. About Narnia. And so first it was May, that was the full page ad. But then,
yeah, but we should give people that context. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so just to clarify.
But then,
yeah, but we should give
page ad.
Yeah, so just to clarify, first
ad.
So just to clarify, first you had in May 2004, so this is about a year and a half before the movie came out, USA Today did this full page, huge kind of poster. Now the movie's still being shot at this point, so there's nothing on there that was actually in the movie. I mean, the logo was completely different, had this kind of generic sword kind of thing they had in there, and there was a shot of a sunset or something. It just said, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Christmas 2005. And I don't know if did we know that wasn't the actual logo? I'm sure, and I don't know if did we. Did we know that wasn't the actual logo? I'm sure we were debating that or whatever, but it didn't matter. Just the fact that it was something and clearly really happening.
Oh yeah.
What was really exciting. I tried to find it. I saved that. I've got it laminated somewhere, but that was kind of and to have it something you could actually hold in your hands. And for the kids listening, a newspaper is kind of like a web page, but it's printed on the back of a dead tree.
Yeah.
And like actually physically tree.
Yeah.
And like actually physically hold this in your hand and say, this movie is really happening was amazing. So I think that was, I'm sure that was a big moment for Narnia Web as well.
So, but when I hear USA Today, what I really remember is this incredible moment when USA Today ran a whole article, not just an ad, but a whole article on Christmas Day about Narnia, the movie coming out. And in this
it's on the front page
article, yeah. And in this
it's on the front page
article, yeah. And in this article, they mentioned in this
it's on the front page
article, yeah. And in this coming out.
It's on the front page.
And in this article, yeah.
Page.
Yeah. And
page.
Yeah. And in this article, they mentioned the leading fan site for Narnia movie news called Narnia Web. And like the
I forgot about that.
And
I forgot
like
I forgot
and
I forgot about that.
Magic of that moment. I went down to I remember like on Christmas morning going
Merry
down
Christmas.
to the gas station and like buying a couple more of these USA Todays because of how exciting this was.
That's about as big as it got. That's about as big as That's about as big as it got back then.
It really was. I mean,
physically printed.
Yeah. The Narnia Web it was actually on the front page of USA Today, going out, all over the country. So that was really, really exciting. And that day, I think Narnia Web had something like 1,000 visitors that day, which was like triple our biggest day ever.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously that's
biggest day ever. Biggest day ever. Day ever.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously that signals the point when news really started to pick up. Do you guys remember? It must have been, I think it was July 2004 when we had the Pevensey actors announced: Georgie Henley, Skander Keynes, Anna Popplewell, William Moseley. Do you guys remember, Fantasia, like your first reaction to the Pevensey casting? See, we saw pictures of them because they actually kept their names a secret until filming had started.
I think Anna Popplewell had leaked. Right.
Just for the
we had I think right.
just for the
we had I think
started.
right.
Started.
Right. We had right. We had I think right. We had I think Anna Popplewell had leaked because
Oh,
she
I
had done
forgot
a
about
movie
that.
before. She had done like some little tiny vampire movie, and so
Yeah.
her name had leaked, and it was not confirmed until that day, but we had been kind of researching her a little bit. But I do remember that, and what I remember the most, and this is so awful to say, was the pictures they released were horrible pictures of those kids. Do you guys remember that? Like
I
it
don't
was
remember
like
that.
their glaring sun, and they weren't posed. They were like talking to people, and anytime you take a screenshot of somebody talking, it's always awful.
Mhm.
And so what I remember about that, it wasn't the most positive memory because everybody's reaction was like, was that really the best they could do? And it was so sad
Really, I
because
don't remember that. I remember Georgie Henley's beaming face.
yeah, it was not long after that. I wonder if that feedback got back to the studio that they released much better photographs of these kids, like maybe the first
Uh-huh.
movie still or something. But I remember those pictures releasing because it was one of the first points where everybody just kind of stopped that optimism, and they were like,
Really?
"Oh,
Wow,
yeah."
I
Do you
don't
remember
remember
that,
that at all.
Tyrion, at all? Because that was I do remember that, and thankfully it didn't last long, and but maybe that's because I was a moderator at that time, and we had to really rein in the negative comments on what the kids look
Yeah,
like.
my memory, and I know that like they weren't sort of nowadays. It would be like a posed shot where they're kind of in character, is how you would typically reveal a character. But these were kind of they invited a newspaper onto the set while they were
Mhm.
shooting the cricket scene in the movie, and they just kind of snapped some shots while they were filming. And I remember I thought Georgie and Will had some really good shots, and then they had some like you couldn't really see Anna and Skander very well. I remember, but I remember the chief reaction was that everyone was surprised at how young Lucy looked.
Mhm.
And of course the fact that she didn't have blonde hair.
Right.
But it was sort of like, but how old is she in the book? Oh, she's 8. How old is Georgie? Oh, she's about 8. Huh. And I think it was a sort of combination of maybe we all realized that we're still kind of picturing Sophie Wilcox from the BBC versions, so subconsciously. And maybe also, we're kind of subconsciously. And maybe also consciously, and maybe also, we're kind of subconsciously, and maybe also, we're kind of accustomed to characters often, getting the actors are usually a few years older than the characters actually are. We're kind of accustomed to that. But I think we all kind of realized, oh, we've just been kind of picturing an older Lucy for some reason. And I think we were surprised at how old Peter looked in that shot. But apart from that, I think I remember generally feeling pretty positive about it, despite the surprise about the age, which actually made sense, and the fact that Lucy didn't have blonde hair. But generally thinking, okay, these look pretty much like the Pevensey actors, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this works. Of course, they're just pictures.
And again,
So
I
who
want to
knows?
say, as soon as they released real shots, not just the candid ones out where they were
Mhm.
filming, that reaction changed immediately, and where they were
Mhm.
filming, reaction changed immediately, and of course, as we all know, everybody fell in love with all 4 of them.
Yeah. Do any of you remember the whole Brian Cox mess? Whole Brian Cox. Yeah. Do any of you remember the whole Brian Cox mess?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You want to do Brian Cox, or do you want to talk about Nicole Kidman?
Nicole Kidman.
Man. Oh, yeah. I think we should probably do Nicole Kidman first, I guess. Fantasia, you want to take us through? Fantasia, you want to take us through the Nicole Kidman thing?
Tyrion may be a better one to do Nicole
Okay.
Kidman, because that was before I came on as a news poster.
Okay, Tyrion, tell us about. Okay, Tyrion, tell us about Nicole Kidman, that whole thing.
So you know what?
The saga.
What I remember. You know what? What I remember. What I remember. What I remember. What I remember. What I remember, I actually I was browsing through here, and I've.
What, baby? Where'd you find that? Oh, okay.
Here, and
You're silly.
here, and
An S for Schroll?
here, and
It's fancy.
here, and I've just been browsing through 2004 Narnia Web, looking at the news reports, and I can see that we posted a story on June 28th that says, "We've received word from Ernie Malick, the publicist for the film, and he assures us that."
Now it's a Y. Now it looks like a Z. It's sharp.
That any reports of Nicole Kidman being involved in the film are simply old rumors, and that she will never be involved with the production.
Wow, that's quite a thing to say. Never.
Yeah. I remember. I don't remember. Like, I remember a lot of people were talking about her, and there was a lot of excitement around it. Probably not
that she had been rumored. That she had been rumored to be cast as the White Witch. I should add that on there.
Yeah.
That was the initial rumor.
That was the initial rumor. Yeah.
But then it grew.
People were swearing they had seen.
But then it grew.
Yeah.
But then it grew.
People were swearing they had seen her on set, and then what it came back was that someone had seen the back of Andrew Adamson with his long blonde hair and thought it was Nicole Kidman.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness, that's right.
But remember, it didn't stop with the White.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness, that's right.
But remember, it didn't.
That's right.
But remember, it didn't stop with the White Witch. Then it came back that she had signed on for all 7 movies and was going to be the narrator of all of the Narnia movies. And I still don't know to this day where that one came from.
I don't either.
But that was probably the first drama. Is it true? Is it not? Kind of thing that came out. And then I don't remember how long after. Pretty long, actually. It was surprising how long it took us to get news about Aslan. But
they had
Aslan. But we had.
they had like finished. Had they like finished filming, and then they were doing the voice actors later? Is that what happened?
I'm pretty sure that I know that Liam Neeson didn't finally get confirmed until I think it was not
later.
Long after. I think it was just before the trailer came out. Maybe it was late.
Yeah.
But Brian Cox initially announced as the voice of Aslan. I to this day still think he would have been a better choice. Liam Neeson's fine, but I would have loved to have heard Brian Cox take on. I remember being really surprised. That's a really interesting, kind of surprising choice. It's kind of a younger, wilder sounding Aslan. That sounds great. Then they went more with the Liam Neeson sort of old, wise Jedi kind of thing, which is which is fine. It's fine. But I would be really curious to hear Brian Cox's take on it.
I'm sure there's tapes somewhere because I'm sure he went in and did all the recording. I'm sure there's tapes somewhere.
Take on it.
I'm sure there's tape.
Take on it.
I'm sure there's tapes somewhere because I'm sure he went in and did all the recording.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually got as far as doing recording.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually got as far as doing recording, but if he did, yeah, we need to dig up those old tapes.
Yeah.
The two of you do the words for the two of you do the word.
Yeah.
Do the words "four wins" trigger anything in you?
Oh my goodness.
I remembered that one. So
Goodness.
I remembered.
Oh my goodness.
I remembered that one.
Goodness.
I remembered that one. So I remembered that.
Goodness.
I remembered that one. So I remembered that one. Even when I was making my.
Oh my goodness.
I remembered that one. So I.
Oh my goodness.
So I remembered that.
Oh my goodness.
So I remembered that.
Goodness.
So I remembered that one. Even when I was making my notes, I remembered that one because that was one that came out. Am I remembering correctly that it was someone who got an early sneak peek and then posted a review online?
So I guess this
About the
is
four
fairly
wins.
late then. This would have been maybe just a few months before the movie
Yeah.
This
came
was
out.
in July. This was in summer of 2005.
Mhm.
Because the movie came out Christmas 2005, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So and what was it basically that
They were
someone
pledged
saw
to
a
the
screening?
Four Winds or something
Yeah,
like that.
Aslan
at the
crowns
end.
them in the name of the Four Winds or something
Yeah.
like that. And I can't even really. I think what's just funny at the time is people around me were kind of freaking out, and I was kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, that's kind of weird, but I was
Yeah.
like, what's the big deal? I didn't see. I thought it was strange,
But
but I
there
didn't
was
know.
like
I
this
wasn't.
big petition. I remember that there's this big petition.
I thought it was strange. Deal. I didn't see. I thought it was strange,
But
but I
there
didn't
was
know.
like
I
this
wasn't.
big petition. I remember.
Deal.
But there was like this big petition. I remember that there's this big petition to have that line taken out of the movie. And am I allowed to say this? You can delete this if I'm not allowed to say this. Michael Flaherty from Walden Media assured me that line was not in the movie. And because he said that, so
Could you just change that
quickly-
to? Could you just say someone close to the production?
someone close to the am I allowed to say this? You can delete this if and Flaherty from Walden Media assured that line was not
production.
someone close to the production. And someone close to close to the production at Walden Media assured me that that was not in the movie. And because that person got back to me so quickly after that rumor came out, I kind of always felt like the person who originally released that rumor misunderstood the line from the movie, because when you watch the movie at the very end, I don't remember the exact line in the movie, but it's like
each of the kids has like to the radiant
movie, but it's
but
like
each of the kids has like to the radiant southern to the radiant sun
yeah,
and the
to
eastern
clear blue
glistening
sky,
sea.
or,
Yeah.
they all
They all
have
each have
this
points
sort
of the compass.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that was
so it
one
must
of
have been
those
something
that,
like that.
was this massive, huge. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Mhm.
So that was one of those that was just this massive, huge deal that I'm with you, Glum Puddle. I was like, what? Why are we even talking about this? This
It just
is
sounded
weird.
really weird, I guess.
think,
And
I think people were
and
yeah, I think people.
I guess.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think people were.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people were concerned that it was taking Narnia in a real like a new age way and like
pagan or
yeah,
something.
like undercutting
Uh-huh.
the religious themes, and maybe it was just going to be kind of
Something
all
like
weird,
that, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I
Wow.
I think that
Mhm.
came out at the same time as the toilet.
I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that came out at the same time as the toilet flush too. That everybody was
Oh, the
freaking out about the
comical toilet
flush.
flush.
Yeah.
Which was probably it was basically a test screening of the movie or something like that, where I think the music was either not there at all or the final mix wasn't done. But in the context of that crowded test screening, you know, when Edmund wakes up in the middle of the night, and you can still hear it in the
Oh,
movie,
yeah.
you know, Lucy
Mhm.
goes with her candle
Yeah.
to go to the wardrobe, and Edmund, you know, you see him emerge from the bathroom and you just hear a toilet flush, and it's not supposed to be funny. It's just there to tell you why Edmund is up in the middle of the night. But I guess they saw a screening where there's either no music or the sound mix wasn't quite done yet, and that toilet flush was very. It seemed like I was supposed to be comical.
Everybody laughed.
And we should remember that the context of Andrew Adamson directed Shrek, and not
Mhm.
everyone on Narnia Web loved the Shrek. So
Right.
we were a little there's some sensitivity there, I think. Do you any memories from any memories? Any memory? I think any memories from when the first trailer dropped, which was surprisingly late. It wasn't until May 2005. Just, I mean, that's just 7 months before the movie came out. When the first trailer dropped. Any memories from that?
I have a question for Tyrion on that. I became a news poster because you, Tyrion, were gone. You could not be online that day, and you had word that there was going to be a big video something that was going to come out the day you were gone, and you were like, "Can you cover it for me?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe.
Wow.
Sure, I could just hit the post button." I don't remember if it was the trailer or if it was one of the Behind the Magic videos, but I remember it was a big deal, and it was after that I became a news poster. So I was wondering if you remember, Tyrion, if that was the trailer or not.
I can't remember.
A news poster. So I was wondering if you remember, Tyrion, if that was the trailer or not.
I can't remember it. I do think that I know that it was I know that it was so I know I know that it was so special and wonderful to be able to have people to help, to be able to say, can you take care of this? Because I can't do it all, and I would love for you to help and be involved in this. And it was so great to have the to have other people to help carry the load. mode of posting news, posting these things. I wish I could remember the details on that. It's getting, wow, almost what, 18 years
20
now?
years
20
ago.
years since oh my goodness. I guess my memory is not what I
Remember
wish it was.
Remember the race to get screen caps? Remember the race to get screen Remember the race to get screen caps?
Yes. It was like we were just like as soon as that thing came out, we had all the I think we even split it up, didn't we? We had different people doing different.
We would often divide it up. Okay, you get the first 30 seconds,
Yes.
and I'll get the last 30 seconds, and we'll work backwards and meet in the middle. But getting screen captures of every single shot
and this is something,
posting them online, and maybe having a little bit of analysis associated with some of them too.
And then we had to do the
which was quite a thing to do.
Again, when you have to type out what the thing says, the transcript.
The transcript,
the transcript, and we're like desperately trying to get it done as fast as possible.
And occasionally we'd argue over what
I just lost the word where you have to type out what the thing says, the transcript. Then we had to do the transcript, and we're like desperately
with some of them too.
And then we had to do the
What's up, Giovanni? How are you?
Then we had to do the transcript.
Hope you're doing well.
And we're like
Monday.
desperately trying to get it done as fast as possible.
And occasionally we'd argue over what they were saying or who was saying it.
And that was where I was always wrong.
Saying it.
And that was where I was always wrong.
I remember that. I remember that was that wasn't the easiest thing to coordinate before you had. I mean, what we're doing right now, this was nothing. Organizing this podcast recording, but 20 years ago is kind of a big deal. Organizing this podcast.
That was back with AOL Instant Messenger.
And
ICQ,
Yahoo Messenger.
And Yahoo Instant Messenger. Yeah.
I remember what a big deal it was when Yahoo Messenger, when they had a voice feature where you could hear the person's voice that wasn't just chatting.
Yeah.
What? Are we in the Star Trek age already? Is how that felt? Wow. But in wow, but in I remember one thing. I remember this wasn't the trailer, but when the first behind the scenes video came out, I still had dial-up internet. Now, again, for the kids at home, that meant having your computer actually dial a number, and you would hear the same old kind of noise. And if at my house, if someone called our house, I might actually about half the time I would get kicked off our house. I might actually about half the time I would get about half the time I would get kicked off. Our house, about half the time I would get kicked off. I would get kicked off.
And
if I wanted to watch a
Grandpa, how many kilobytes? Grandpa, how many kilobytes could you download? And Grandpa, how many kilobytes? And Grandpa, how many kilobytes could you download per second?
Very little. And I would have to. So when the first Narnia behind the scenes video came out, which had a lot of Richard Taylor had a lot of Richard Taylor stuff in it. I clicked stuff in it. I clicked on it and went. I clicked on it and went. It's gonna take all night to load, because often that's what I would do. I would literally start loading, go to bed, and wake up and watch the video. And I went, I'm gonna just eat myself alive if I have to wait all night. I won't sleep. So I ran over to a friend's house who had much faster internet and watched it a couple of times, and then ran back and posted about it. But thank God we got high speed internet shortly after, when real news started coming out. But it was a different time. Now I've talked. Time. Now. Time. Now I was talking before about the 4 Winds thing, where I felt like I was one of the few people not freaking out for some reason. Here's one that's the opposite. When the so-called white witch pictures started coming out, and she wasn't, but I mean, Lewis said she's like white, like paper or sugar, and it just looked like Tilda Swinton to me. Looked pretty normal, and I thought, the white witch is so iconic, and come on, is that too much to ask? And everyone was just like, I don't know, whatever, it looks fine. And that one still bothers me. And Fantasia, can you Fantasia, can you tell me why that's not, at the time it wasn't a terrible thing? At the time it wasn't a terrible. It wasn't a terrible thing to a lot of people, and I guess still isn't.
So I think that what's funny is that I remember reacting a lot more strongly too. Not as much as you, but I was like, why is she so normal looking? Yeah. And I think it was one of those things where at the time, everything else we had seen up to that point looked really, really good. And everything else about her looked really, really good.
I liked her costume
and I think
makeup,
we were, and I think it was and I think it was one of those things where at the time, everything else we had seen up to that point looked really, really good. And everything else about her looked really, really good.
I liked her costume
and I think
makeup,
we were easily forgiving at that point. It was like maybe the first sort of strike, kind of. But everything else looked spectacular. And so it didn't bring people down very much. I think if it had been the very first thing we had seen, it would have been a much bigger deal. But at that point, we had seen a lot of other pictures and
that we'd probably
some of the
seen
behind the
Tumnus
scenes
by that point.
videos.
That we'd probably
Some of the
seen
behind the
Tumnus.
scenes.
Probably
Some of the
seen
behind the
Tumnus
scenes
by that point.
videos.
Yeah.
Videos.
Probably seen Tumnus.
Videos.
We'd probably seen
Videos.
We'd probably seen Tumnus by that point.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah. And so I think at that point we were a little less likely to freak out than we would have been otherwise.
Okay. Whereas I wasn't as, I was sort of like, oh, this all looks fine, but I wasn't as, I mean, the trailer got me pretty excited, but a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, I was sort of like, oh, okay, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So for me, the White Witch was more about what? I mean, maybe I'm a purist, but I don't think I'm asking that much for the White Witch to be white. Come on now.
And I feel like too, we also heard something about like they had tried to do tests of her being white. And I feel like too, we
come on now.
And I feel like too, we also heard something about like they had tried to do tests of her being white and it looked awful.
And that might be the case. Like now I put my filmmaking hat on and I say, okay, I could see where it would just look like clownish, or it would be a little, it wouldn't look very intimidating, or maybe too intimidating. Maybe it wouldn't be credible that Edmund would think she was nice in the context of a movie. And so now I'm more forgiving.
And look.
of it.
And looking at it,
A movie. So now I'm more forgiving of it.
and looking at it, I think that Tilda's presence in the film is so powerful. It's
really good.
so good that you can kind of see how she makes it, even though it's probably not how you picture it, from if you're watching a cartoon or in your head. I think it makes sense, and I think I'd have to agree with Fantasia there with the, everything else was so good. You'd think, okay, they got the kids right, they got Tumnus right, Aslan looks amazing. I can be okay.
Tumnus was very controversial. Yeah.
If
Sorry, good.
If the White Witch looks amazing, I can be okay.
Tumnus was very
Sorry, good. If the White Witch doesn't look, I can be okay. Hey, if the White Witch doesn't look exactly like how I've pictured it. So Tumnus.
No!
Tumnus.
Perfection.
Oh, I loved Tumnus. I thought he looked wonderful.
No, but when he was cast, everyone, of course,
got Tumnus right.
Tumnus was very controversial.
Looks amazing. Yeah. I can be okay. Sorry, good. If the White Witch doesn't look exactly like how I've pictured it.
No! Perfection.
Oh, I love
perfection. No! Perfection.
Oh, I loved Tumnus. I thought he looked wonderful.
No, but when he was cast, everyone, of course, including Andrew Adamson, was sort of like saying, that is a lot. He's kind of young and good looking, which is not at all how I imagined Tumnus. And so I remember that was a big surprise. But James McAvoy not at all how I imagined Tumnus. And so I remember that was a big surprise. But James McAvoy ended up being one of my favorite bits of casting in the movie for sure. Yeah. Should we talk Should we talk a little bit about kind of skipping? I'm going to get to our initial movie reactions, actually experiences seeing the movie, but do we want to skip ahead a little bit and talk about April Fool's 2006 at all?
Oh my goodness.
Remind me which one that was.
Was this the first one that we really pulled off?
The one. That was the first
one that we really pulled off?
The one.
Was this the first one that we really pulled off?
That was the first April Fool's. And Tyrion, didn't you do something? Weren't there like fake script pages or something, and you printed them out and crumbled them up or something like that?
Oh, we did so much.
So mature.
Oh my goodness. We had so many. This must have been also one of these kind of group projects where everybody pooled ideas and to pull this thing off.
Yeah, where we announced that Mr. T we announced that Mr. We announced we announced that Mr. T was going to play Reepicheep, and there was artwork of a very muscular Reepicheep. But it was just like about 10 fake stories or so we posted on April Fool's Day and just completely took over Narnia, basically. Nowadays, particularly with the state that we're, a number of factors, I'd be extremely reluctant now to knowingly post false information even on April Fool's Day. They probably wouldn't do that again. But at the time, it was jolly good fun, at least until 2008 when the Caspian Susan joke actually came true.
Oh.
But at the time, it was all fun. But at the time, it was all fun and games, and that story I continue to tell many times. Okay, yeah, that was times. Okay, yeah, that was definitely good. I don't remember if I had any part in that. Oh no, I remember I recorded a podcast with Rillian. At the time, Rillian had his own podcast called Narnia News in a Nutshell, and we said, well, what if Rillian reports on the April Fool's stuff? It'll kind of make it look a little credible. He'll do a podcast talking about that. And then that actually was the way. And then that actually was the way that we ended up saying, well, really, why don't you just be the official podcast, basically? And here we are today. It's still the official podcast.
See, that's something that I did not even know. I didn't know that.
That's true. And that's, which is, here we are full circle. Now we're doing the 20th anniversary of Narnia Web on the podcast. Now backing up a bit. Now backing up a bit. Now backing podcast. Now backing up a bit. So for the first time you guys saw the movie, I mean, it's impossible to underestimate the amount of anticipation. It's impossible movie. It's impossible to underestimate the amount of anticipation. I mean, when I went to see it, it had literally been nearly 4 years of picturing what might a movie version of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe be, and at least a year and a half of a daily thing, like every single day logging on to Narnia Web and what's the latest news, what's the latest thing we can dissect. A lot of anticipation. So Tyrion, I remember you saw it a couple of weeks before I did. A lot of us got, Disney gave us advanced screenings, which is super cool. But do you kind of remember? I remember your first reaction was very, very positive, and I remember chatting with you about like, hey, I didn't want you to spoil too much, but like, what are your impressions? And then you posted a review. But what was your first experience seeing the movie, and did it live up to all that?
So in kind of mid-November,
all that.
In kind of mid-November, Walden reached out and said, hey, we would like you to come to the press screening for the movie. This is before the red carpet, but it's in New York, and the kids are going to be there, the cast is going to be there, the director's going to be there. Would you like to come to see this movie? And I just couldn't even believe what I was hearing. Are you kidding me? Do I want to come see the movie? Of course I want to come see the movie. And so I went to New York, and I stayed with my grandmother, and I took the train into the city from Long Island, and I went to go see the movie. And I remember going into the movie theater, and my name was on a list, and I got to go in, and I think I even had an assigned seat, and I went and I sat in this movie theater, and I looked around, and of course I had just been living and breathing this movie for the last 2 years, and I knew everybody. I was like, oh, look, there's Sim Evan Jones, and there's, that's Rupert Everett, and
the editor.
And
it was the first. I think it was the first. It was the first. I think it was the first.
This song's gonna get stuck inside your head.
I think it was the first movie I ever saw where I recognized. I think it was the first. I think it was the first movie I ever saw where I recognized. I think it was the first movie I ever saw where I recognized every single name in the credits.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I had spent so much time with this movie by this point that it was almost a little bit, it's weird to say this, but it was almost a little bit of a letdown because I knew I could almost have written the screenplay for what the movie was going to be because I'd spent so much time with every trailer and it was so thoroughly spoiled. We've got to talk about the spoiler-free monastery before we're done here. But I'd so spoiled myself that it wasn't like experiencing it for the first time in a way, because I'd seen so many of these scenes and so many of the background pictures, but it was so special to just experience the whole thing with the music and just the whole flow of the whole movie. It was pretty overwhelming. I don't know that I was able to really look at it critically. I know I wasn't able to look at it critically because it was such a special environment. But I was so overwhelmed by environment. But I was so overwhelmed. Environment. And I was so overwhelmed. And I was so overwhelmed by actually being there with these people.
It was kind of, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
But
I just remember it was just a shock. I just remember it was. I just remember it was just a shock to actually be seeing it. I just remember it was just a shock to actually be seeing it.
Yeah,
you got so used to anticipating it. It was kind of like, it was almost sad to see it, like it was the end of an era.
Yes, a little bit. So what were your thoughts when you first saw it? Do you remember where you saw it?
I saw it in Miami. It was about a week before release date, and I remember when we got there, the release date, and I remember when we got there, they actually said, "Hey guys, sorry, we're hoping to start it soon, but we're having a hard time getting the film out of the little security case thing that they sent it in. We've entered the right combination and it's just not opening, and we're talking to the studio, and so there's like a 15-minute delay." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for 4 years to see this, but the last 15 minutes has been the longest." They even let my brother. Been the longest. They even let my brother come with me because we're both huge Narnia fans. That was incredible. Thank you, Disney. I remember Disney, but I remember, just liking it, but being a little Disney. But I remember, just liking it, but being a little disappointed. Like thinking like, oh, it's good, but I'm happy. I think the title of my review was Satisfied, because remember you had that whole thing where Narnia Webbers could post a review, and they had
reviews,
you could give each category, like cinematography and acting and writing, you kind of give each category a 5 shield rating. And the title of my review was Satisfied, but I think a better word might have been content. Like, I thought it was good, but it didn't live up to kind of what I'd hoped The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie could be, but still like, okay. I went into it being like, just please don't suck. It would just be terrible not to suck. It didn't suck. It was fine. So I wanted more about. So I wanted more, but I thought it was still pretty good. What about you, Fantasia? What was your experience seeing it for the first time?
I did not get a sneak preview of the So I did not get
experience seeing it for the first time.
So I did not get a sneak preview of The Lion, the Witch, and Order because I had finals.
Oh,
So my first viewing
Wow.
was with a whole bunch of Narnia Webbers in Kansas City.
Lion
at
Party.
The Lion
Lion
Party.
Party.
And we all went in. It was my first time meeting a whole bunch of my friends online. I had met Tyrion already. We had a family vacation and I had stopped through and met Tyrion. I think, Tyrion, you were the first person I met actually in person on Narnia Web. And then
Same here.
And so we all watched it together. And then we went across the street and ate pizza and discussed it for a long time. And then we all, I think after that, all went our separate ways back home, which was crazy because a couple of the girls had driven up from Texas. And one of the guys had driven down from, I think, Minneapolis. And so they had come a long way just so we could meet and see the movie. I was
Wow.
like you. I think it was such a buildup and so much hype leading up to it that the movie itself was a little bit like, it was really good, but it wasn't like, it was not the same experience that I had had when seeing Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
And so, so I think my expectation,
Mhm.
and so I think,
Uh-oh.
Mhm.
so I think my expectations were way up here, and then the movie was just slightly below.
Mhm.
I will say this: it has grown on me after the first
Mhm.
viewing. I feel like a lot of us. I don't know if I speak for you two or not, but this was certainly the case for me. I liked it a lot better the second time I saw it,
Yeah, probably.
and so I think that first experience, and so I.
Probably.
So I think that first experience.
Yeah, probably.
So I think so.
Probably.
So I think that first experience seeing it, what I got out of it more was actually being able to see it with all of my Narnia Web friends than actually
Uh-huh.
seeing the movie itself.
And that's kind of the yeah, which is a really good. I guess we got to mention the spoiler-free monastery really quick. But I want to come back to the idea of the community made it special, regardless of how the movie actually turned out. But the spoiler-free monastery, because we all talked about, it's just spoiled to death. We felt like we felt like we kind of already seen it because we've been studying it for a year and a half. How could it possibly live up? But there was a group of Narnia Webbers determined to not let that happen. And I don't really know too much about it because I certainly wasn't involved in it. I was a news poster.
This is the 20-year anniversary of the ones that came out when we were kids.
I was heavily.
So they're talking about their reactions to it, like all of this leading up to the new one coming out.
Posting news at the time, there were no spoilers here.
Oh yeah, there were none of us could really be involved.
Hello, Peter.
In it, but it was such a fun.
Hey, Robert, how are you? Nice to see you.
Such a fun. I think it was such a fun. I think it was with the Prince Caspian movie.
It's fun for me, Robert. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
But it was such a. I think it was involved in it, but it was such a. Involved in it. Involved in it. I think it was with. Involved in it. I think it was with the Prince Caspian.
I woke up with like a pinched nerve in my back, so I wish it was a happier Monday. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time doing like all my like rehab stuff at home, like massage gun, icing, stretching, that sort of thing. So I kind of got work started late today, but I'm getting done what I need to do, and hopefully after all the get a couple hours into trying to help that pinched nerve, just my tight muscles. Hopefully tomorrow will be better.
Caspian movie
How was your day?
that it really
okay.
really took off. Was really took off? Was it
Did Dr. Ellen
was it or was it
did Dr.
or was it
did Dr.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. My hamstring that I hurt about a month ago is healing, but it's definitely connected to it. Just all the tightness in my hamstring kind of going up and making like some sciatica pain, hips, glutes, back, that sort of thing. So it's definitely tugging on stuff, but hopefully it'll all be over soon.
or was it
Did Dr. Ellen Ransom lead that up?
He was
I feel like in my mind his name was attached to that.
He was the head
To that.
He was the head monk, I
right.
think, or the high priest. I don't know what I don't remember the but it was such a it was where all the creative writing of
Ooh. Yeah, that is a difficult topic. Oops, what was that? I have been trying to avoid it because I feel like no matter what you say, I'm going to make half of people mad. But I'm recording a podcast tomorrow, and I think we're going to talk about it anyway. So I've been thinking about how I'm going to structure that.
Of Narnia Whip just exploded. And
I had to hold my tongue quite a bit this weekend because I was at a big Catholic event when the news broke. And definitely held my tongue a couple of times.
Exploded. And there was just this beautiful world of silliness that came to life with the spoiler-free monastery.
Oh.
Spoiler-free monastery.
Oh. That was that. Did it start there? It turned into Ditto Town, which is a whole nother. That's a whole other thing to discuss another day. But yeah,
I think it was the predecessor, maybe.
Oh, hello, YouTube. That's actually helpful because one of the primary reasons I'm doing this is to get more watch hours on YouTube. So thanks for migrating. Hope to see you here more often.
But yeah,
I think it was the predecessor, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I can remember. I can remember.
All right, we're going to move all this way.
Maybe.
Okay.
I can remember.
And then move all this way.
Okay.
I can remember. On the news posting side.
I think we talked about that the other day, Peter, when you came on. But yeah, this is literally. We talked about you being an inspiration for getting me to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I just didn't for really no good reason. Finally, just trying to change stuff up. And I feel like this is going to help get me to my two primary goals for watch hours, to get YouTube partner.
Is that a spoiler? Is it a major spoiler or a mild spoiler or a plot spoiler or a visual spoiler? What kind of spoiler is it? And that was, we'd put those little warnings in there. That was a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But what you...
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just like, with YouTube, like typically you want to make content, make videos for it. That's the whole point of it. But, I'm just working with content all the time. So sometimes I don't want to make new content. Peter, you know how I feel about that word. So I was like, well, I'm already doing this. It's easy to stream. I don't have to carry a conversation. The stream was quiet for an hour and a half before y'all got here, and now I'm talking. But this is something that I'm good at, and that it's different. I don't think it's ever going to have a huge audience, but it'll help with watch hours and drive people to the main content of the channel. So
it, and that was
Yeah.
we'd put those little warnings in there. That was a really big deal.
Mhm.
But what you said, Rachel, that really what you said, Fantasia. But what you said,
they use fake names, so he just revealed it. Whoopsies.
really big deal.
Mhm.
What you said, Fantasia, that really Fantasia, that really
Thanks, Peter.
resonates with me.
Oh, latency is a bit rougher here. Would you be open to it? Yeah, if I knew how to do that. I don't know how to do that. Sorry, I just saw that message. Enable low latency. That must be a. I'm using Restream. And I haven't really gone through all the settings and stuff. Any ideas? You know how? Have you used Restream? Settings. Billing, payment, streaming setup. Or is that an OBS? Oh, on YouTube's end. I haven't done much live streaming. This is actually only like my third or fourth one. Yeah, there's me. Studio. And then settings. You know where? Stream settings on YouTube's end. Studio, create, go live. You think it'll save it for all of them? Because I've used Restream to actually go live, so I can be on Twitch too. Go live. Schedule stream. Oh, dashboard. Okay, so this is like the Twitch dashboard. Okay. 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 Oh, low latency. It is checked. That's what you wanted, right? Or ultra low. Low was checked on here. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this though, so this either way it was good to find. You said the other way. Oh no, not my channel. If I change it to ultra low, will it mess with the quality for everybody? You said I can go here too, live. Galileo Figaro. How did I get there? Oh, yeah, I went to this. Oh, this is interesting. We recommend you use a stream bitrate of 4,800. Okay. I don't think I can do anything about it now. There's my... Oh, yeah, there we go. What? So it's usually a drop-down box. I wonder if I can mess with it. I'll mess with that after. Don't mess this one up. Yeah, that seems really high to me. Like, really high. Let's see if this messes with anything. Hopefully it doesn't. Oh, did I apply it? Let me know if that changed anything, if everything's still working. Strange. I wonder if it noticed that I changed it. Now it's at 7,000. Huh. Oh well. I'll look that up later. Hopefully I remember.
It's with me. On, you know, it was regardless resonates with me. You know, it
This stuff I know how to do.
resonates with me. You know, it was with me. You know, it with me. You know, it was regardless about the movie turned out, just the journey getting to there was so special. And that's, and if I'm was so special and that's getting to there was so special. And that's, and if I'm honest, looking forward to possible was so special. And that's, and if I'm honest, looking forward to possible Netflix adaptations. This is kind of me starting to wrap things up.
There you go.
Looking forward to, you know, possible Netflix adaptations and what's Greta Gerwig going to do. And look, I mean, I love the Chronicles of Narnia books. They're my favorite. The Voyage of the Narnia books. They're my favorite. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite. The Voyage of the Dawn books. They're my, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yeah, Prout, somebody beat you to the joke earlier, but I knew what I was doing when I titled it. Not that it worked, not that it's like a super successful stream, but you're here. I got you here, and that's what matters. Behind the scenes. But I definitely knew what I was doing.
Chronicles of Narnia books. They're my, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite thing. That the Chronicles of Narnia books. They're my books. They're my.
Can I do this? Let's see if I can make this as smooth as I would like to.
Book. The Voyage of the Dawn Chronicles of Narnia book. The Voyage of the Dawn.
I don't think I can.
Books. The Voyage of
Oh, that's a big S.
books. The Voyage of the Dawn books. The Voyage of the Dawn
Peter, great joke. No one's made it yet.
books. The Voyage of the Dawn
I did it. Golly.
Chronicles of Narnia books. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yeah, it's so smooth. I dedicate that one to Prout for just showing up for that. Probably the best edit I've made all day.
Chronicles of Narnia books. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite thing that humans have ever made, and I would love to see, and I would love to see adaptations of it that are great movies and bring these out, make more people aware of Narnia. That's all absolutely true. But I really do want.
Thanks, Peter. Peter, I almost had to make you sad today. So it's actually about an hour ago, right before you showed up. I almost had to cancel on you for Friday, but I didn't. Yeah, exactly. Or one joke over and over again.
That, but I think if
Oh, no, I
anything,
hit
I'm
save on
almost
the chat
when I
again.
hear news about a new Narnia movie coming out, I kind of think it's just as much or maybe more. The thing I'm really excited about.
If I was editing BTS, I would just, do that and it'd be over.
I think it's just as much or maybe more. The thing I'm really excited about is this stuff. Is just, way over analyzing and
Oh, well, in that case I quit.
And nitpicking and the community aspect of it is kind of aspect of it. It's kind of thing I'm really. It's like, hey, even if the movies don't turn out to be great, even if Greta Gerwig ruins them, I hope she doesn't. But if she does, we'll still
click the wrong stream then.
We'll still have a.
Wait, Peter, you're back on Twitch.
She does. We'll still.
Hi, I'm Peter. When Taylor tells me something I can do is helpful, I do the other thing.
Have a great journey getting there, and I think it's and affected, and I think it's.
Thanks, Peter. That's what I figured. That's what I figured it was safe to bust your chops a little bit. Appreciate you.
And I think it's affected me as a person, I think.
Now go get another device and hit start on the Forte Catholic podcast playlist and let it play for the next, 360 hours. Let's see. In exactly 15 days, you'll be done with that playlist, and I'll have 365 watch hours.
The ability to find your people, even from long distances, which is a relatively new idea.
Yeah, exactly.
To the it was a relatively new idea. To the it was a relatively new idea 20 years ago. New idea, which is a relatively new idea. It was a relatively new idea 20 years ago. Instances, which is a relative. Instances.
Yeah.
To the it was a relatively new idea. It was a relatively new. It was a relatively new. From long distances.
Yeah.
From long distances.
Yeah.
It was a relatively new.
Yeah.
It was a relatively new idea. Instances.
Yeah.
It was a relatively new idea.
Oh, I do it all the time, Peter. All the time. With multiple devices and multiple channels.
Instances.
Yeah.
It was a relatively new idea 20 years ago, and it looks different now, but like it's kind of different. Like it's kind of different. It's kind of different. It's kind of different.
Like Justin Bieber said, you should go and love yourself. Nobody else says.
It's kind of, but it's kind of different, of course. Narnia Web's more multifaceted now with social media and the pace of when news comes out. It's all kind of different, but that's I think different, but that's I think that's we still have that same aim of cordial, productive discussion and connecting
Bye-bye.
Connecting people and hopefully in some way connecting to the filmmakers and making them aware that, hey, we care about this stuff. Don't want you to necessarily read every single forum post for ideas for the script, but just know that we really, really care about this stuff. It's not script, but just know that we really really care about this stuff. It's not just a movie. So regardless of what happens next, I hope I think it'll It'll be even now waiting for nothing in particular. The past several years has been fun because there's still a tight knit group here.
Yeah, it is.
Anticipating it.
Very interesting. Is
anticipating it.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting, isn't it? How many people are still here, even after all this time?
After all this time, always.
Time.
I mean, it's hard to count though because we've got a handful in the forum, we've got a whole the Facebook group has over 5,000 members now, and Instagram and Twitter, and it's a little more difficult to kind of quantify. There's the comment section, people that might be come in and chime in every now and then. People that might be come in and chime in every now and then, even though they don't necessarily have a registered name or anything. So it's difficult. We're in a place where it's more difficult to kind of quantify and nail down the Narnia web community and where it is, because it's kind of all over the place now. It's not like it was in 2003.
It's such an interesting.
But I guess I'm
sorry.
Oh.
Let's say Tyrion.
It's such an interesting thing because it's been a whole generation. It's such an interesting thing because it's been a whole. It's been a whole.
2003.
It's such an interesting thing because it's been a whole generation that's grown up. There were some people that weren't even born when Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe came out. There were some people that were very young that have just grown up, and everybody's changed.
This part is extra quiet. So let's give it a boost.
Interesting thing because it's been a whole generation that's grown up. There were some people that weren't even born when Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe came out. There were some people that were very young that have just grown up, and everybody's changed so much. But Narnia Web has become part of our lives. It's informed who we are and how we've grown and how we've changed, and it's changed who we've become. And I think that's pretty special.
What are you saying, Fantasia?
Can't. Can't top that. Sorry.
Special. Special.
What are you saying?
Can't top that. Sorry.
No, I love you guys. I love you guys.
Aww.
I love you guys. I love. I love you guys. I love Narnia Web. It has meant a lot to me, and I hope the move. I hope the next round of move. I hope the next round. I hope the next round of. I hope the next round of. I hope the next round of movies are good, but if they're not, this will still be awesome. So
yeah, absolutely.
We've always got.
Is there anything else you guys want to say about?
That's absolutely.
We've always got.
Is there anything else you guys?
Absolutely.
We've always got Narnia Web.
Is there anything else you guys want to say about?
That's right. We've always got Narnia Web.
We've always got Narnia Web.
That's right. We've always got Narnia Web.
I hope so. Hope the internet will still be around. but yep, further up and around. Yep, further up and further in. Was there anything else you guys want to say about Narnia Web or anything? Did we miss anything?
Well, we only did one movie.
That's true. I figured it made sense to focus on Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe.
So we've got to come back and do another one, Remembering Prince Caspian.
Could we pause? Let's get 10 seconds of silence. This will help me with the...
Okay, I think he's ending here. Thank you, Peter.
Further up and further in.
So another thing about doing these lives is I've been thinking for a long time to like do, and I probably still will, but like how-to videos on like, 5 minutes of this process, 5 minutes of this process or whatever. So I think eventually I'll sit down and actually do those and do like screen capture like I'm doing here. But at least for now, I'm just showing the whole process. So
it has meant a lot to me, and hope the next round of movies are good, but if they're not, this will still be awesome. So
yep, absolutely.
We've always got Narnia Web.
That's right. We've always got Narnia Web.
I hope so. Hope the internet will still be around. Yep, further up and further in. Further up and further in.
yeah, what's interesting about the how-tos, like one thing that's held me back from doing them is that I'm not sure if I want to do it on like the main Forte Catholic channel or like have a brother or sister channel. But seeing as it is a huge part of what we do, I think I've decided to just do it as part of the main channel. I say that, but I'm still kind of wavering because I don't want people like coming for Catholic content to be turned off by audio, editing content or vice versa, I guess. I don't know. So my friend has some like brother and sister channels. Like he has like a main gaming channel, and then when like one game starts doing well, he spins it off into like a brother sister channel that connect. But right now, I think what's holding me back on making that decision ultimately is I just want to get partnered. So I'm doing everything that I can to get partnered with YouTube, and then maybe I'll spin off something after that. So, yeah. Okay. This is Talking Peace. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Peter. Is like I think ultimately the better decision is to have it as a separate channel. But just I know my own bandwidth and I know how life goes, and I just think it would be more difficult to upkeep two channels. But balancing that with I have help editing now and all that stuff. But I think for now I'm just doing the easy thing of keeping it here. And then, maybe down the road, like you said, spin it off. Yeah, and like that's what he did too. Is like he spun it off after, so that way I wouldn't be growing from the ground up. But it would. I'm just thinking like we get a lot of like all of our reels are essentially don't go to our audience; they just go to the general audience, which is good because we get a bunch of numbers on our YouTube shorts, not reels. We get great numbers on them. But it always kind of funny. It's like, I'm making some joke in 60 seconds and then they show up and I'm like, giving talks on Catholicism. I always wonder how that goes. So I think that's probably why we don't get a lot of conversion on, I guess pun intended, conversion from like our shorts to our main content. Because it's like, they're, for the most part, like if we do a short about faith, obviously they'll come for that. But sometimes we're just, making a joke about the Aggies or whatever and Aggies will come follow. So anyway. Robert, reconciling data. That sounds more difficult than what I'm doing. It is funny because like this is a tedious like work, but I love it. I love the fixing of things and the making things sound better than they originally were. So it's a fun tedium for me, and it's one of those things. If you can find something that is tedious to other people and be good at it, you can make a living out of it. So I like that. All right, I'm going to email this guy and tell him his podcast is done. Check it off here in Trello. Any of y'all use Trello? I love it. It's my favorite to-do list master thing that I've had. Robert, you've probably told me before, but what type of work do you do? Just got my... Oh, cool. Very fancy. Just got my kids' report cards. Gonna check those live. Looks good. Should be another one. I have to. I'm such a checklisty guy, and especially now that I have people working with me, you can assign stuff in here, and like she has her list of stuff she does. I have mine. Okay, I saved that. That's all done. Done with that podcast. It's great, Peter. I love it. You can come in here and, make something do here, add a card, put it on which list you want, assign it to people, say when it's due. It's like these are all the due dates. My to-do list, her to-do list. This is like ideas and stuff for future videos and everything. So, yeah. I need to... speaking of things, I need to run payroll. You said financial analyst, and it reminded me to run payroll. So you're going to make Sarah very happy that I run payroll all the time. That's all on the 16th. And then I'll do it again. I guess I'll just move it then. Okay, I need to audit this one. This is the one thing where it's funny. So like that one shows fully what I do, right? Like the podcast I just edited. But now I'm auditing an edit from Sarah, which goes a little quicker. But I would imagine it's more annoying as a viewer because it's a lot more choppy and you don't get a full story from the show. So what am I doing? Diocese. There we go. She uploaded the correct audition file. There it is. This is the last thing I need to do today because this podcast releases at 1 o'clock this coming morning. Hey, Robert, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it, as always. Enjoy your dinner. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.
All right, so I just sat down with Jim Beckman, author of God Help Me, How to Grow in Prayer. And for years, you're going to get prayer. Take a listen. Jim Beckman, how you doing?
Great. It's good to be up into one. I love to talk about topics, but then
I love Jim. He's one of my favorite people alive.
Yeah.
And through our diocesan work, but I love prayer and each other. So
yeah, and our conversation into faith journey.
Well, I usually.
Whoa, that's unique. Yeah, different than some.
I think I have an.
Yeah, different than some.
I think I have an.
Different than some.
I think I.
Different than some.
I think I have an interesting faith journey. I met the Lord
Mm.
and was
Mm.
who had passed away.
Oh, I need to email that guy that I finished this other one.
Away, and my mother's funeral,
Wow. That's a lot.
family Christ
Mm.
in a town, and one thing leads to another. In 6-8,
Wow.
that all happened my 10th birthday.
Wow.
That all happened around birthday.
Yeah, I'd say that's an interesting. Yeah, I'd say that's an interesting thing.
As a 10-year-old,
Yeah. Comes back home. I'm presuming he comes back home and
Yep, came back home.
wow.
Could walk. We'll get complete the story, but I mean, he had things happen over the Lord, things happen over the night, the lower four.
Wow.
It's somewhat documented. It's somewhat documented journey.
Yeah.
As I grew in college, I think my really got, and then just huge desire to years. Prayer has there. It really mimics through all my kept me that sense,
As I'm reflecting 4 years, contra to part of a conversion in my 20s. God is part of a conversion in my 20s. But I don't know where real kind of living so young. Any of my friends that are listening, that for folks, to know her to be so long.
One side tangent, and there,
Yeah.
dorm room door.
Yeah, it's yeah,
You're
and probably
pretty
illegally.
instrumental.
It's yeah, and yeah, yeah, and probably it's yeah, and probably illegally.
Brendan Pond.
Oh yeah, well yeah, Center. You mentioned in prayer. Just full disclosure, we buy in prayer. Just full disclosure, because we give that as leaders how to share their faith. Prayer is like found. I love it. Conversation.
Yeah, it's a palpable memory. I'd started seeing a new spiritual director, Father Scott Trainer.
So this story is Father Scott.
Yeah, that's his father.
To life.
I was probably half a month.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know then. I said, well, it's been really, and then all of a sudden, really jarring. I almost chair.
He has a large hand, so I'm sure.
He slams his hand down on the table and you're going to say, want, right? Isn't that like just looking at me like, do you have an answer by nature? So I process things internally. Like there is no good response, right? And he was like, you're just waiting for saying,
yeah.
I can't, and then he said, Jim, what is it going to take?
That's so good.
So hard. I'm always canceling it. I did become convinced, I guess. There really is nothing in that.
I don't know why it just urgent and prayer.
Yep.
Wow. Prayer's I appreciate church folks kind of blame a little bit for us.
I actually tell this kid, but what it? And so something, or you, how still Basilica. He lasted 39 seconds. He lasted 30. But hey, it's a start. 39 seconds.
Well, yeah.
What was fascinating, I actually can't teach you how to pray because I'll just be giving you a lot of information about prayer. And some of the time praying with you. And almost 2 weeks, we've been pretty okay. But on this, the grace, and we were just quiet. It was beautiful, listening to him when he finally. How long was that?
Yeah, totally love it.
Like he was not believe it.
I love that. I used to do that.
Well,
I used to do that, Lord.
Well, so like,
yeah, but still gospel. And as where They're like, what?
Yeah, it's beautiful. One of the things, nature.
They're like, what?
Yeah, it's beautiful. One of the things, like nature, like in our nature. So that actually,
Yeah.
we're trying to converse, right? Yeah. You want to find nature, St. Aaron said. So you have to language. I like to mimic me. That's how little kids learn how to talk. And a lot of times it's all messy, you know?
Yeah. And yet as a dad, you still love it.
Yeah, yeah. But I like that. Sometimes you're dealing with somebody that's not, you're dealing with some nature.
And you're learning something new. It's a new club, you know, really adequate. Even a video. Just like, I want to get saying is, if we're language and if we're going to huge.
It's a big stop, study time praying. And if you, they'd be advanced to look at a great book. Yeah.
Which one are you thinking of?
I think I've read every single one of his books, but Time for God is the one. And it's one of the things that most people in today's bearing fruit somehow, all encourage because they just don't understand it. And I'll just encourage them, you want to meet with me. You want this time that we spend is this timeful. God's, because they're specifically asking for things.
Jim, if you can, like, and maybe this, but there is a sense, but I think it might come in pitfalls that we fall, common pitfalls that we fall believing those things.
Yeah. We're just saturated with media beliefs, even in very nowadays, or at least presented. The whole culture is that. I was just with somebody the other day for lunch. Don't slog through life anyway. I think most of life in this very kind of programmatic way, where they're examples, I think.
You have this line in the book where the measure of our prayer can't see that are coming from him. Say a little bit more about prayer.
It's one of the am I actually measure everything or
right, deep insight.
Yeah, all of those things are, I can consistently as much as there. Like this way that any changes. It's like
they don't sound like
normal voice. Almost to the point you're like, what are you voice? Almost to the point you're weird. People prayer voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honesty. There's he talks about like right away and just be who you are.
I want to build off that in the scriptures. I'll just name a few, but when you see Moses and the Lord back and forth is how, and there's complaining divinely is so freeing. I mean, sounds like, a honesty and
right.
Why don't I myself go to? Jim, how did we get there? So, not.
Well, I do start to live. I don't think you start to live in a way. I don't think you can. There are ways, every way, and just like all solitude, that happened.
Yeah, would the pain.
I don't know. It's insecurities
and frustrational stuff.
Yeah, and they don't. But I would argue because otherwise you just overcompensate. First of all, but then you'll get promoted to the center. Well, if you could be by them in that moment, this is what the great gives. I think this invitation into, and whether it's this is a random
reading true confession. Oh, just so reading true confession.
Jim,
I know.
You can't hurry. Time to read this book. I better hurry. I just think there's something.
Yeah.
If you're there.
Gosh, there's, so of movements is some of the digital media from some of the digital lives.
It's what I would call one of the silver linings of the culturally human. We actually, unless you, right? And they're actually their souls.
Yeah. Conditions that there's in silence.
Yeah. This is decided to make a group me with everybody's simultaneously. Well, cell phones.
Wow.
It's like, this have a cell phone. I've met a group, and they're the home. We have, I mean, at a certain point, I'm like, cell phones. I mean, at a certain point, here.
These are kids that had
here.
These are
here.
These are kids that had a phone themselves.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there was maybe I don't want to have.
That is,
again, it's amazing.
yeah. Holy cow. What was now? I know at the time there to him. Can you speak that we're not, the challenge? Can you speak to those who are listening who feel right now where prayer slipped away?
Here's an expression of what you're talking. I was on a priest retreat ministry and just work for him. And it was a bold statement. You could tell, therein lies all of us, I would be, God is, I think the thing is like the proper discipline. The proper disposition is why I'm going to make time to pray every day. Now, I would argue in my life, I pray every day. I don't frequently experience real dramatic things. Definitely not every day experience God. It's all day. Like, I don't know the breakthrough.
Right. It builds us to go back to you and hear it. To go back to your go back to your to go back to your to go back to your Jim, talk a little bit more to Lord.
I actually started time and then I just ran.
Yeah. I mean, this one's already been edited. So I'm just like checking the edits to make sure that they're smooth, which they are. That's why I'm able to jump so fast through it. But yeah, that's one of the cool things about audio editing is that like I can see it, right? And like you start being able to see like that's a breath, and she took out most of the ums, but that's probably an or an and an that she took out, right? Like you start noticing little things.
Yeah.
Like I knew that looked weird.
Yeah.
And that was some internet audio glitch, right? So it is fun that the longer you do it, you can see the audio and it feels like it's coming to life.
Back then.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I was one of those first. It's like there were a lot.
Yeah. I ended up going back. And then I went to the Institute. And then I was working on my master's at the Augustine Institute. So now I'm returning in what I'm to leaders. You're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like 3 to 5%. It would be a handful. It would be a handful of people out of some help. I'm finding pretty consistent. These are people in full-time ministry.
Exhausted, burned out, cynical.
Yeah. I've run into a number of people that are so depressed.
Sometimes I get tricked. Like I thought that was an but it's a yeah.
Suicidal ideation. This is where I feel like God is. I'm out on the open battle I need. I'll get onto the battle passageway.
What does that mean?
If one of your
What's funny is the host's name is Jim, so this is a Jim and Jim conversation
about that.
So you can validate.
And they're both very slim.
I have to be safe to help these people where you could.
Yeah, it's not safe for you to represent the church.
But that's what's just they're just abandoned.
Jim, we'll put a link. Jim, we'll put a link to the Impact Center.
Yeah.
Comment to speak to those who are listening.
Yeah.
Correct people.
Yeah.
I just want to get those in comment to speak to all of its. Where do they start?
My imitation time, Jacques Phillips. But if you've either never really prayed and you're just starting, or I'm going to make earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything else today. I just think you're playing that live.
Jim, or sounds like very, very exciting that this is going to need to maybe could be blessed by more of your work. Thank you.
Well, and people care because, like you said, it just all in that book.
Yeah, share this out. Thanks for being with us.
All right. Podcast done. All right. So I am going to. What is that? I can't tell what that is. Oh, good game. To me, it looks like a lemon wearing glasses. Probably because I need glasses. And then I zoomed in. It was GG. All right. Well, this is going to end the stream for the day. How long did we go? Almost 3 hours. Not too bad. Not too bad. Peter, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching on two fronts. See, look, Peter, I on my iPad. Oh, that's funny. Is it? Can I see it animated on here? Oh yeah, it is animated on here. Oh, that's fascinating. I do see it animated on the Twitch version. I have to start the next video on my iPad that is definitely watching my quote-unquote content. So now that video is going to run for the next 3 hours. The last live stream is just running. So got to get those precious, precious watch hours. My precious. It's so funny how much longer it takes to export stuff whenever I'm streaming. That's great. I mean, as long as you just keep playing it, and I use the like button as like my I watched this already button. So yeah, it is a helpful thing to do. How close are you to whatchamacallit? YouTube partner? Because I honestly didn't know that. So my understanding was previously that live things didn't count unless they watched them after they were live. But now what I misunderstood is that the watch hours of live count as long as it goes to it being a public video. Like it's not set to go to private. So that was the kind of the big breakthrough of like, oh, I can do this. Because like, who's going to watch this for 3 hours? Not live, but live people can do it. Well, other than me on my iPad. Okay, did I do what I said I was going to do? I did. Yeah, but I wonder, because it's all about watch hours, and like you have a good amount of viewers, so the live watch hours should count. I'd be interested to see. Yeah. Because I remember you did it on YouTube for a long time. Because the requirements are 1,000 subscribers, 3,000 watch hours for like basic partner, and then real partnership where you get ads is 4,000. Which is yeah, because I mean, like every time, I mean, you're getting, I mean, your watch hours from Twitch, so I mean, you can get, I know you migrated away from there a while ago, but where's it at? So you need 3,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. WAF. I don't know what that is. And then this is the real one. That's what I really want to hit, because that's when I start putting ads and really getting money. And especially for my shorts, because my shorts actually get good views. But all right, good luck with your coding. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. You're so nice today. I guess I'll have to be nicer to you on Friday. Yeah, for sure. I mean, YouTube's literally the biggest website in the world. So, all right. I am out of here. Adios. God bless. See you on Friday if I don't see you on another stream this week.